You and I have a love-hate relationship with time. We never seem to have enough of it. We treat it like a commodity. We try to buy more of it. We search out ways to manage time or save time, but do we really have any control over it? We often wish that we could travel back into time and fix our mistakes, or dream about being able to travel into the future so that we could see the obstacles and the bumps in the road ahead. Almost all of time exists in two places, the past or the future. Most of our thought life takes place in those two places. Most of us spend too much time thinking about the past even though we can't change it. How often do you think about your future? Probably not as much as we should. After all, we do have some control of the future based upon decisions we make today. But what about God? Where does He fit in? Or does He? Could it be that God is walking alongside of us, experiencing life with us as it's happening? Or does God exist outside of time and simply enter in and out of time as He pleases? What if it's even more mysterious than that? Could time exist inside of God? That would make the issue of time travel even more interesting, as if it wasn't already. I love the sound of a ticking clock. Every morning we wake up to an alarm clock. We leave the house at a certain time to be at work. We watch the clock to know what time it is, when it's time to go home, when it's time to eat. We lament waiting in traffic because it costs us time. We get stressed when we're running late somewhere. We're aggravated when we get there, only to have to wait on somebody else. Time we could spend doing what we want gets spent doing what we don't want. Time is more than just something to be controlled. It's also beautiful. It's what turns a caterpillar into a butterfly, a seed into a flower, cells into a baby. It's what gives beat to a melody so that we can all sing the same song, even if we don't all sing in tune. We have a different tool for measuring time. We have clocks and calendars and birthdays and seasons. The rate of time is constant, but it doesn't always seem that way. Ask a child. They'll tell you the day before going to Disneyland has to be the longest day of the year, and the day at Disneyland is the shortest day of the year. Ask any husband or wife, and they'll tell you that time can either speed up or slow down, depending upon who's holding the remote control. These are all ways we perceive time, but does it help us to understand it? To unlock the mystery of time, we have to separate ourselves from it. We have to look at time not just as a reality, but something that was created. Genesis 1:1 says this, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Really, that's really beautiful. But there's another translation that I would like for you to hear, another rendition of the Torah that I would like to hear. Let's see if I can find that. Here it is. I love this rendition, and I love how it reads, this translation here. It says this, same verse, "In the beginning of God's creating." In the beginning of God's creating. What a beautiful way of describing how everything that was created was created. In the beginning of God's creating. The common translation doesn't capture the full picture of what was going on, because it just was the beginning of the heavens and the earth. There was something going on before that. God existed. No telling what He was doing, but everything we do know about that era began when God started creating. I believe that's when time began, on day one, when God created the heavens and the earth, because as soon as the heavens and earth were created, there became a past. What was the past? The time that heaven and earth didn't exist. So before heaven and earth, after heaven and earth, simple enough, right? On day 2, God created our atmosphere and sky and our seas and our land. And on day 3, God created vegetables and seed-bearing plants. Then we arrive at day 4. This is when time gets some much-needed accessories. That's when God created the lights in the firmament to be used for signs and seasons and days and years. This is important development in time. Now we have a way to measure time. Time began on day 1 when God started creating things. I mentioned this earlier, but as soon as something is created, there becomes a past. Time or moments before it existed. And before time existed, there was eternity. So time existed, but there was no system for measuring it. That system didn't come until day 4. So let's review what happened. On day 4, God created lights in the firmament and the heavens. First, to give light to the earth. Second, to be used for signs and seasons and days and years, or to measure time as it passes. But let me just pause here. The sun is created on day 4, but trees and plants were created on day 3. What about photosynthesis? Don't trees need sunlight to grow? So how did they grow without sunlight? I think that's really a good question, but that's not quite where I'm going at this particular moment. God created a way of measuring time for our benefit. Trees and plants didn't need it, but God knew humans would, and animals would as well. God followed a logical process during these 6 days of creating. He created dry land before creating man, and that was a really good thing. Otherwise, man would have drowned when he placed him here on earth. So why did man need night and day? He needed to know when to work and when to rest. God rested, and it was good that man did too. So the sun setting forced man to stop subduing the earth, at least for a little while. Time was created on day 1, and then on day 4, God created a way to measure how time passed. But time still has another major transition to make before it would resemble what we experience today. What do you think that transition is? The transition came the very moment sin entered time. Sin entered time when Adam and Eve fell to temptation in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and that caused a series of spiritual and physical dominoes to fall. Mankind made 2 enemies on that day, serpent and time. Time from that moment forward would begin to have an effect on man. God had warned Adam that the day he ate from the tree of knowledge, he would surely die. We have no idea how long Adam and Eve lived before that fateful day, but we do know how long Adam lived after that day, 930 years, or 70 years shy of 1,000 years. Moses, who wrote the 91st Psalm, tells us this: a day to God is as 1,000 years to man. Adam died 70 years shy of that symbolic day of the Lord. Before that day in the garden, time had a limited role in the lives of Adam and Eve. It told them when it was time to start subduing the earth. It told them when God would come and walk with them in the cool of the day. It told them when to go to sleep, all gentle reminders. But after the fall, time became a constant reminder of man's mortality. That's when the clock started ticking. Adam and Eve began to age. This tells us that it's not time that causes us to age, it's sin. Before sin, no aging. After sin, aging. The fundamental property of sin is that it deteriorates whatever it comes into contact with. People, animals, plants, rocks, all are affected by sin. It's not that rocks can sin, but our sin, the sin of humans, affects all of creation. It wasn't just that time became our enemy because of sin, the past also became our enemy. You see, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is the ability to know what's good and what is evil. It's not just the ability to sin, it's the awareness of when we sin. Before Adam and Eve sinned in the garden, they had no knowledge of good and evil. But after they sinned, they remembered the past differently. They remembered the good and the bad. And that created new ways to sin. It's taken me decades to unravel the mysteries we've discussed on these programs, but it's been worth it, because knowing God and understanding His ways and mysteries is what it means to be fully alive. That's why I've taken our entire first season of Dreams and Mysteries and put it into a 3-book, 2-CD set I'm calling Fully Alive, your personal journey into discovering the hidden mysteries of God. So if you're enjoying what you've been seeing, I would encourage you to go deeper through this Dreams and Mysteries transformational package, Fully Alive.
Order today and discover an exciting new life that's fully alive. To begin your journey, call 1-800-538-5285 or go to dreamsandmysteries.com.
There's something really intriguing about time. Time was created on day 1. We were given a way to measure it on day 4, and then sin came into the picture. And the passing of time got a whole lot more personal because it involved aging and decay. Most scientists would add that time is a part of a 4th dimension called time and space. That may be nice to know, but it doesn't answer questions like, is there such a thing as predestination or fate, or do I have an eternal purpose? Does God know my future? And by the way, how could God know my future when it might depend on the sum of a billion little choices that I haven't even made yet? And if God doesn't know my future, how can I trust that He can keep me safe when He doesn't even know what might be around the corner? These are big questions because they impact everything. How we believe, how we live, how we pray. They determine whether you pray in faith or pray in hope or even pray at all. Hope's a wonderful thing, but praying in hope is a little like bringing a knife to a gunfight. You really want to pray in faith. The mystery of God and time is this: God isn't within time. Whoa. Let me say it again. God isn't within time. Time exists within God. Let me just tell you why really quickly. You see, if something preceded time, meaning God is within time, then that would preclude God from being eternal. So if something preceded Him, that would mean eternity is not part of what God is. So God has to precede time in order for God to still be, or for God to be an eternal being. So it's not even that God is outside of time and periodically just enters time when He needs to intervene in our life. God is simultaneously in the past, the present, and the future, all at the same moment, because we exist in Him. Kind of like the baby exists in the womb, we exist in Him. We live and move and have our being in Him. That's what the Scripture says. So how do I know this? Because Jesus said it in the Bible. In 3 different accounts of the Gospels, Jesus tells the Sadducees, quoting Exodus 3:15, I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. But then Jesus says this, He is not the God of the dead, but the living. Wait a minute. Wasn't Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob dead when Jesus said that? What could Jesus have been talking about here? He's talking about the majesty of God. God is eternally present with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. At the same moment, He's listening to His Son Jesus stump the Sadducees. At the same moment, He's watching you watch this broadcast. And I might add this, He's also watching your great-great-grandson take his first steps, all at the same moment. That's why you can trust God with your life. Just think about it. That's why you can pray in faith for God to forgive your past mistakes and guide your future, because He's watching both play out at the very moment you pray. After all, didn't He say that before you even ask, I've started, the answer I've answered? This is the God who created you. This is the incredible God who is at the other end when you pray. So pray in faith, knowing that God is never caught by surprise. Nothing surprises Him. He still has a plan for you. you still have a purpose, and God's designed that plan with full knowledge of what's around the corner.
I'm back in high school, and I'm suddenly realizing we're about to take a test. I can't believe it. I don't even know what the test is on. So I'm rifling through my backpack, trying to look for a book or something so I can just find out what class I'm in. But all that's in there are a change of clothes and my lunch. No books. Then I realize I need a pencil because the test is on Scantron. But all I have is a pen. I'm asking everyone around me for a pencil, but they're all ignoring me. They've already started taking the test. Then the guy next to me starts whispering to me. He's not telling me the answers on the test, but he's telling me how I should take the test. All I can see are his feet. It's like I can't look up any higher. I remember thinking, well, that's good advice, but what I could really use are just the answers. Then I wake up.
Man, school dreams. Dreams while we're back in school are very common. Sometimes going back in time in a dream is a way God uses to speak to us about an issue that happened during that period in our life. But that's not the case here. The age of the dreamer isn't a major factor in this dream. The dream is more about where he is, in school, taking a test that he's not prepared for. If I was to give this dream a title, I'd probably call it Back in School Taking a Test, because I like to keep things simple. Really, all you need to know to interpret this dream is that. This dream's about the dreamer going through a period where things he should have learned already weren't learned, and he's about to get the opportunity to learn those lessons all over again. Here's why God gave him the dream. He's not prepared. He didn't know the test was coming. He didn't study, didn't even know what the test was about. He didn't even have a pencil. This is a warning dream, one of the 20 categories of dreams, by the way. And this warning is that a test is coming his way, and he needs to prepare for it now or he won't pass it. But there's a source of hope. I love hope in a dream. And the person that gives him hope is the one you could only see the feet. That person was offering him encouragement. This person may not be offering the dreamer the help he wants, but it's probably the help he needs. Faceless people, or people you can't quite completely make out in the dream, often represent a spiritual figure. It could be Jesus, the Lord, even an angel. What's important for the dreamer to know is this: God is with him during the test. That's important. And when nobody else around him offers him a hand, God will. I'm willing to bet you've had a dream about taking a test you weren't prepared for. Here's a quick tip to tell if you're going around the mountain all over again. Has the scenery changed? Well, think about it. Does everything look the same? Because if it does, you're taking the test again. If you still have the same issues in your life, and they happen over and over again, there's a good chance that God is letting you retake some of the tests you personally didn't pass.
Over the last 30 years, John Paul Jackson has studied how God speaks metaphorically through dreams, parables, and proverbs in the Bible. God wants all believers to understand their dreams, and that includes you. For your gift of $35 or more, we'd like to send you the Beginner's Dream Bundle, a 2-CD teaching the basics of dreams, visions, and strange events, and 3 dream cards to help you understand and decode what God is telling you while you sleep. If you still need more, jump up to the Advanced Dream Bundle. For your gift of $50 or more, we'll include everything you see, plus John Paul's 6-CD set, Understanding Dreams and Visions, and the Moments with God Dream Journal. Dreams are messages from eternity, but without an interpretation. They're just a mere occurrence. Order your dream bundle today. Visit dreamsandmysteries.com or call 1-800-538-5285. Are you looking to uncover more mysteries? With over 100 videos, free downloads, and new videos added monthly, Streams Media Plus offers you teaching and training on biblical subjects. As a member, you will have exclusive access to Dreamopedia, a dream mentoring program, and Beyond, an interactive program where John Paul answers tough spiritual questions from subscribers. $10 a month gets you connected to everything in our library, at home, in the office, or on the go. Get started today at dreamsandmysteries.com.
I want to give you an example of how we get God and time confused. Most of us know God is eternal. We would all agree with that. It's one of the 5 attributes that we give to deity: eternality, immutability, omnipotence, omnipresence, and omniscience. So he knows everything. He's never someplace. He's always present in everywhere we go, and he is all powerful in everything. Now, here's what we need to understand. We typically think he's eternal, but we also think that he is walking with us through time. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, it means this. We think that, well, my grandfather, God walked with my grandfather, and now he walked with my father, and he passed away, and he's walking with me, and one day I'll pass away, and then he's walking with my grandchildren, and they'll pass away. God just kind of keeps on going through time. But that's not really how it works, because it defies deity if you think of it that way. Because here's what you're saying. God walked with my grandfather through time, and now he's in another day, and that means he's now someplace that he's never been. You can't be omnipresent if you walk into some place you've never been. Not only that, if God is walking with us through eternity, just as we're going along, then he walks into a new day. He learns something, because you can't walk into a day without learning something. Is the sun shining today, or is it going to rain? You learn something. So now that defies his omniscience. And so what we do is we gradually deteriorate God's deity without even knowing it. We're deteriorating him. What it really transpires is this. God is outside of time. Time exists within him. What I mean is this. God, outside of time, is here, looking all the way through time, clear to the end of time. And he's even watching where you are. So he decided when he's going to put you here on earth. So let's say he put you here, right here, because this is how he's going to design you to have the greatest impact that you're ever going to have. You're designed for this particular hour. Well, God is also here at the end of time, looking all the way back in time at you, but he's also doing something else you may not know. He's looking at your great-great-grandchildren and what they're doing, all because you made a decision, and you know what? You won't make that decision for 2 more years. 2 more years. He's already watching this whole thing play itself out. We think of God so limited. We make God more human than he is. He is deity. We're human. He's God. We're not. One more thing. Take an example of the Mount of Transfiguration. On the Mount of Transfiguration, Jesus and God was present, the Father was present with the Son, and Elijah and Moses were there. So you have Jesus, Elijah, and Moses. You have the 3 disciples that were with him, Peter, James, and John. Now, if God was progressively eternal, he's with Jesus, he would have had to say, excuse me, let me go back and pick up Moses and bring him here. In other words, he would have had to leave someplace to go someplace, and that would mean he is not always present, which defies the entirety of Scripture. God is always here. So, to sum it all up, God is outside of time. We are in him. We live and move and have our being in him. Acts chapter 17, verse 28. We live and move and have our being in him. So we can have confidence then that God is never surprised by anything that goes on. He's just waiting for us to ask. God has already looked at the entire future of you and your bloodline. And God is with me right now, inside me, around me, and everything. And not only that, God is already in the future watching everything that's coming towards him, and a decision I'm going to make is going to change my bloodline, and my great-great-grandchildren are going to benefit from it. How great can you get beyond that?
Throughout the difficulties of life, we found that overcoming fear and rejection was key in our relationship with God and each other. Through John Paul's life-changing resource, the Hope Collection, his book, Breaking Free of Rejection, John Paul showed us how to truly become the person that God has created us to be. Also included How God Kills Fear and Where's God When Things Don't Turn Out As You Planned on DVD. The Hope Collection can be yours for your gift of $45 or more to the ministry. Get free from the hold that fear, rejection, and disappointment have on you with these powerful, life-changing resources. Order the Hope Collection by calling 1-800-538-5285 or go to dreamsandmysteries.com.
Class is in session with John Paul Jackson's online School of Ministry. Available online are 4 university-caliber courses written by John Paul. It's never been easier to take a quantum leap forward in your spiritual walk. The courses include The Art of Hearing God, Understanding Dreams and Visions, Prayer and Spiritual Warfare, and Living the Spiritual Life. Begin your journey to better understand everything that God has for you by going to dreamsandmysteries.com.
Here's what you should understand about the mystery of time. It's only a mystery to us. God sees the past, present, and future all at the same moment. Therefore, nothing catches him by surprise. That means God not only knows the future, he knows your future. That's why you can put your faith and trust in him to lead you, because he's already been where you've still yet to go. That's why faith in God isn't really a risk. The greater risk is to try to live a life without him. You see, he created you for a purpose, and he wants to see that purpose through. You have an amazing destiny. Don't think so? Consider this. Could God have put you anywhere on earth? Could he have put you at any point in the history of mankind? The answer is yes, but he chose now. Why? Because there's something you were created to do, and only you can accomplish it. Right where you're at, lives that only you can reach, hearts that only you can touch. That's how much value you have to God. If the days on earth are getting spiritually darker, then that means you're part of God's preordained plan to counter that darkness with light. Surely, he has saved the best of every bloodline to live right now, and that means you. So arise and shine. You were created for such a time as this. You're not an accident. You will not fail, because the God who gave his only Son to redeem you now awaits to see the amazing things you're going to do for the kingdom. In fact, he's already there watching you.